talk about the flywheel, clutch plate, pressure plate, throwout bearing, and pilot bush, and how all that goes together to mate up your engine with your transmission. My solution to the clutch throwout bearing was to use this hydraulic throwout bearing, which came from a company in Texas. It's the type that a lot of racers use. I inherited it when I bought the project, but you know what, it works great and it's adjustable. There's an aluminum mount ring behind this that allows you to adjust this fore and aft so that you make sure that your the pressure that's on the diaphragm is not too great, just barely touching. And with the open bottom to the bell housing, pretty easy thing to do. So that's what I did for my car, and I think it worked out real well. Since the car is already apart, I thought, why not talk about some of the components that we would not see otherwise. This particular item in front of me is the flywheel, and it came from the wedge shop. It's been lightened by about 16 pounds, which allows your RPMs to build up quicker than a stock flywheel would, and it allows your RPMs to fall off quicker than a stock flywheel would. So you get that race car effect. Most people might not need that. For my particular car, since it is more of a hot rod than a cruiser or a show car, I thought that would be the perfect flywheel to have for this particular engine. Okay, got the flywheel on. The pilot shaft bushing fits in the back of the crankshaft and allows the pilot shaft from the transmission to have a place to center up. So it's a fairly critical bushing, and it is a bushing in this case, not a bearing. Bearing would be more than one piece. This is just a single piece, kind of a silicon bronze material. Another name for it, I guess, would be oilite. Nevertheless, it is a non-lubricated bearing, so what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the rear of the crankshaft here, and we're going to Loctite that in. And then once that's Loctited in, of course, it won't move anymore. And then we'll put some anti-seize on the end of the pilot shaft as it goes in there, and hopefully that will lubricate it for the life that it's in this particular engine. Our bushing goes right in here, and we're going to put some Loctite. In this case, it's made by Suzuki, but that's okay. It'll work for us just fine. So we're going to put a little Loctite on here. And we'll just slide it right in. Like that. The next phase in the clutch assembly process is to, using the pilot shaft tool or the centering tool, get our clutch plate centered up in the back of the flywheel. Now you see that that's got a little movement, so we'll get that at least centered on there. That'll hold it on there. Get a couple of bolts ready, and here's our pressure plate assembly. That'll go on here like this. Get a bolt in there to hold it. One down there to hold that. There's 6 bolts, and I'm just putting them on every other bolt here. Finger tight, bolt 6. And just kind of work our way around here. As we do this, it's of course having to press down the springs in the pressure plate, so there's a fair amount of resistance. That's why I'm using the power hammer. This is probably a fairly critical part of the assembly, is mating up the transmission to the engine. I don't know that there's a really super simple way to do it. I found that leaving the engine on the engine hoist and kind of a makeshift cradle dolly for my transmission works pretty good. I've got the splines on my pilot shaft lubed up. I've got some anti-seize on the very tip of the pilot shaft. That anti-seize will go inside the bearing, the pilot shaft bushing, and that hopefully give it some long life. Having had one of those fail, it's not a horrible thing, but it doesn't make the car very pleasant to drive with all the chattering. So anyway, pretty much ready to put this together, so I'm going to do that now. This one's close. Close enough now to get a couple of bolts in there. However, you shouldn't use your bolts to pull the transmission onto the engine. It's not a really good idea. But we're just going to get these on here so that we know that we're lined up where we need to be. And then we can keep coaxing it until we are happy. Sometimes it just needs a little persuading, so we do like that. We're getting really close. I think we're safe in using the ratchet to do our last 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Give these guys a last tighten up. There we go. Engine mated to transmission.